Let's do this. So, welcome to 11th episode of the base building tutorial series. Last time where we left off is that we finally have some box selection working, meaning we can drag out like a bit of flooring, as you can see here in the example. The biggest problem is that after you select and issue the job to build the floor, although the workers start building, you can't really see what is planned to be built. So there's not really any visual feedback on how large or how much they're going to build. So let's fix that for today and implement some simple job visualization for the jobs we're queuing up. So what we want to do is we want to show tile change jobs as a sort of translucent version of the tile that's being built. And it's remarkably easy to do that. We only need to change some code in the tile manager. So let's do that now. Let's go to our base builder tutorial. Let's open the tile sprite manager, and in our redraw function, we're going to add something to visualize jobs. And we'll do that by going over each job in the world. Then we'll look at what kind of job it is. And in case it's a change tile job, then we will get a texture for that tile. And then we can use the set tile texture method at the position for the job.target position in the scene. And if it's any other job, we simply break. We don't do anything. Now this will show tiles that are planned exactly the same way as tiles that are that have been built already. So what I would like to do is add the option of adding some translucency, and to do that we go to our set tile texture method, and after the in scene, let's add the option to pass in a color. So let's say we pass in a color, it will be an SK color, and we will default it to white. So if we don't pass in anything, we'll just keep the color as it is. But what we'll do is we'll take the node dot color and set it to the color. And we'll do the same here. And also, apparently we already added the color blend factor as a sort of comment earlier. We'll set the color here as well. You need the color blend factor to set to 1 to really be able to override the color. Otherwise, by default it's 0, and that means that the color property doesn't do anything for sprites. So now we can go back to our call to the set tile function here, and we can say, let's give it a bit of a different color. Let's say we have a SK color, and we will take wait a second, we're forgetting the property name, so we need an SK color of type. I'm not sure why autocomplete isn't working. That typically means something is going wrong, but let's see if we can still get it to work. So we will keep the color white, but set the alpha, so the transparency to 0.5. So let's see if this builds. Okay, so that succeeded. So let's see what happens. There will be a couple of bugs, but let's see how far we get. So here's our app. So click build. change style to floor, and let's draw out a bit of flooring. Well, that looks kind of okay. So let's see if this also works for a wall. Hey, that's not working. So let's go into a bit of more detail there. Why is the floor working and why isn't the wall working? So let's draw out the wall, and we'll look in the comments here, and we see we're having error loading an image resource for wall. And that's because walls have a naming convention that has also directions to which they continue added. And the most common wall is the wall that doesn't has no connections anywhere. We will use this one as the base wall, but it has a different name. So the easiest fix is, I'm not sure if this is really the nicest way of fixing it, but we can do, of course, duplicate it and rename it to wall. So let's see if this helps. Now let's see, we can still do some flooring. Nice small part. And we can build some wall. And now it's working. So now we achieved our main goal, and we could say this will be a very, very short episode, but I thought let's go one step further. So what if you could highlight selected tiles? So if we go back to our game and let's run it once more, you see the outline of the box you're selecting, but you can't really see the tiles that it's hitting. And because the selection is in the middle sometimes of other tiles, it might give you a bit of a different ID than what you expect. So if you want to select only one tile, you would end up with only this small dot. And I don't think that's very easy to read. So let's make it sure that we can you can see the highlighted tiles during the box selection. And it's a bit more work, but it's not too bad. So let's go back to our tile sprite manager and create a function that is able to highlight tiles. So let's have a function called function highlight tiles, and this will get passed in an array of tiles to highlight in the world and in a scene. And let's go over each coordinate in tiles. And if the world.tiles coord is not nil, because it could still be void, then let's take a sprite name. We'll get a sprite name for tile in the world at our coordinates. Then we take a texture, get the texture named sprite name, and we call our setTileTexture method using the texture position coordinate in green. Color will be an SK color, and we will give this a sort of greenish hue. And let's see, so no red, a bit of green, no blue, and a bit of alpha. Because the box is already green, so it would make sense to make your selected tiles also slightly greenish. That should be enough to at least get us started. But what if it's a void tile? We would like to at least select them. Then we create a temporary tile. We take a texture, and let's assume we have a texture named clear. Then we set the set tile texture for the texture at the position our coordinates in our scene. So we don't yet have this texture, so let's go to our assets and add where's a desktop. I created a clear texture that's just a white tile with the required size 16 by 16. Note it needs to be white instead of transparent, because if it's transparent you won't be able to recolor it. So it needs to be white, and then you can give it any color that you need. So let's go back to our tile sprite manager. So we have our texture named clear now. This allows us to highlight tiles, but you can imagine if you can only highlight tiles and can't unhighlight them, you will end up with more and more highlighted tiles over time. So let's also create a function called unhighlight tiles that also takes in an array of tiles. It takes in the world, and it will take in scene. So it's very similar to the first one. So again, we go through each coordinate in tiles. Again, if it's defined, then we take the sprite name, get a sprite name for tile world at the coordinates, and again we get the texture for the sprite name, and we set the tile texture to our texture at the coordinates in the scene, and this time we again give it the color white, so we're basically erasing the overwritten color of earlier. Else, this again is a void tile, so we need to remove any temporary tile. So let's see if we can find a tile at this coordinate, or let's see if we can get the sprite at this coordinate. Then we say remove from parent, and also we remove it from the tile sprite map, and this should clean it up quite nicely. So this should help us get allow the tile sprite manager to highlight and unhighlight tiles. So the next step will be getting this into our game, because this isn't yet called anywhere. So let's go to our game scene and let's see what we need to do there. So we have our touch moved function, and this is where we're drawing the square. So when we start drawing the square first, let's unhighlight all the currently selected tiles. And here selected tiles is a set, so we need to convert it to an array in the world in ourself. This makes it sure that before we start dragging out, we at least unhighlight all the existing selected tiles. And you might think, well, let's at the end, when we're done creating the new selection here, highlighting the tiles, but that won't work because then they get overwritten during the update function. So highlighting the tiles that are selected is something we need to do in the update function. So we have a redraw function here. Let's take a tile sprite manager and say highlight tiles. And again, we convert this into an array for our world in self. And finally, in our touch up function, so let's go here. This is where we finish our selection. Once we're done, we finished our selection, we should simply unhighlight all the tiles that were selected, so they don't stay highlighted after you're done selecting. So again, we take our array, select the tiles in our row, in our cell. So let's see how far we get with this. Let's see. So we have some errors. This is an SK scene. This should work as well. Right. So let's see. So we built. Let's draw also some flooring. So now you can see the tiles that are selected, and indeed also the ones that are highlighted. You can the ones that are void are selected, but you can see them if it's existing. It starts becoming a bit greenish. So let's draw out a bit of flooring. So then it becomes the job version, and once they're done, they become the real flooring. This should also work for the walls. So let's draw out a wall. So this makes, I think, a whole lot more sense. Just for good measure, let's create a doorway here. And let's finish the wall. Hopefully we still have enough wood left. And finally the wall there. Cool. Cool. I like this. So let's see. So we show highlighted tiles during box selection by creating these highlight tiles and unhighlight tile functions. And we call these functions from the game scene. So that's it. Next time we'll do some panning and zooming of the camera. And after that, I think we are done with UI for a bit, and we will get back to adding actually some more game content. So thanks for watching and have a good day.